Good afternoon. Welcome to the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and comfortable confines from Lake City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the show out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and as well as on Substack. Coming at you live, guys, with an instant reaction video talking about the Jets-Vikings game, which was very exciting. I got up pretty damn early to catch it, to make sure I was catching, a good recap of the game and tell you guys, giving you the up-to-date, live, pretty much as factual as possible status of what my opinion was and take from the early morning game that was in Tottenham Stadium in London this morning. Hopping right into it, the Jets need Davante Adams. I mean, I could go to the end of the game for you real quick, but I'm going to surmise it for you in one safe assumption. Outside of Garrett Wilson and Tyler Conklin, I don't understand any reason why there's any other receiver touching the ball outside of them. In full honesty, full just synopsis looking at the game, Allen Lazard had 10 targets, and I don't know why. Allen Lazard's hands have been inconsistent since he left Green Bay. He has been an inconsistent wide receiver since he left the Green Bay Packers. And case in point, you start off the game. Offense is struggling. Early pick six by Aaron Rodgers. Puts the team behind the 8 ball. Van Ginkel gets a pick six. I mean, you're already down. You're already down. And you're already like, it's stagnant. It's very stagnant for the Jets on offense. You go even further and you look. Puts them in dire straits early in the game. I mean, and the Vikings, granted, throw an early interception as well. However, they look so good and were maintaining a balance throughout the game. I mean, they put up everything that they needed to early. Aaron Jones was flowing. He gets hurt, hip injury. I'll touch on that in a little bit in a second. But Aaron Jones gets hurt, but the ball is still moving. Addison and Justin Jefferson are touching the ball. Jefferson had a ton of targets today. I mean, it was insane. It was insane. The Vikings had a clear game plan, a clear plan of attack on how to attack this Jets defense, and they executed it. Though what was concerning was once Aaron Jones left and you saw Tyson Chandler fumble, you kind of felt like, all right, with Jones being questionable to return, that kind of gave the Jets a little bit of life. But lo and behold, the Jets defense kept struggling. They really need at that point in the game, early in the middle of that first half, they really needed the offense to help them out, and it just wasn't there. It just wasn't there at all. They were struggling to, Aaron was struggling to catch the blitz sometimes off the left side. Blitz pickups just weren't as great as they needed to be. It was just things that just didn't make sense that should have went a certain way offensively for them that just didn't. So shout out to Brian Flores and the execution there. He just did exactly what he wanted to and ensured that they had no chance in hell of actually moving the ball if you were the Jets offense. And then again, lack of communication. Something that you were seeing, it was even being reported on during the game. You're stagnant as hell on offense, and the only communication is between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback. This is one of the reasons why Nathaniel Hackett, why people wanted him going last year. Very inconsistent, not really good at his job, and it's showing. It's really showing. And then another thing that was very, very frightening, if you were a Jets fan, you're watching the Jets defense. They had one sequence. They had 3 consecutive pass interference penalties, all on Justin Jefferson. Granted, Justin Jefferson's a great wide receiver, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. I get it. That's just too damn handsy. 3 consecutive pass interference penalties. I believe, and don't get me wrong, when I say consecutive, I do believe one of those penalties may have been a play in between before, but it felt consecutive. Either way, it was a fucking shit show, and it shouldn't have happened. If you're the Jets, that's just a horrible way to start off a game. And again, it was a dumpster fire. They hadn't scored any points. They hadn't really moved the ball. Penalties and no continuity. It just looks bad. You cannot. In that first half alone, you knew, they're gonna get Davante Adams. Davante Adams with Garrett Wilson, that'll help that offense tremendously compared to just what they have out there. And then, and kudos to the Vikings again, defensively doing exactly what they needed to do to stunt and limit that Jets offense. Because in all honesty, if you're not communicating and you got that Brian Flores defense firing on all cylinders, good fucking night. Good night. But before halftime, what was very interesting to see, The Jets defense had finally got a stop. No penalties. Sauce Gardner had a good defensive pass breakup against Justin Jefferson. And understand at that point, I'm going to make sure I'm reading this correctly. At that point, that was the 5th Vikings drive of the day. And that was the first drive that they had not made it onto the Jets side of the field. So again, in a clear explanation, they had 5 drives that they ran. They had scored on the 4 previous. On that 5th drive, that was the first time they hadn't crossed the 50 and got on the Jets side of the field, which just lets you know how badly and how shittily the Jets were playing this morning. It was horrible. Then, the Jets finally score. Alan Lazard finally catches a damn pass. Score 17-7 going to halftime. You kind of felt like the Jets were starting to get their momentum. Something that I noticed too in that first half, and I don't know if this is a byproduct of the offensive line, Rodgers, just depending on muscle memory, but he hadn't really set his feet a lot early in that first half. It was a lot of hinge, up in the air, hijinks throws, and it's like, that's going to get you fucking slaughtered. He gets his knee bent back late in the middle of the second half, and we all thought he was going to be out of the game at that point. But throwing like that, I mean, I get it. When you're athletically gifted, the way this man has been for most of his life, and you've had the supreme talent, arm talent, and athleticism, and not even being, and he's athletic because he played basketball and football, but because he was so athletic, he could get away with that shit. Now at 40, that's not sustainable. And throwing off your back foot, jumping in the air, these young defensive linemen are going to kill him. They're going to kill him. But nonetheless, the second half is where the game really took place. The Vikings really had no continuity. You could kind of see that the Jets had kind of figured out something with Sam Darnold, and I'll touch on that too in a little bit. But it really seemed like with Aaron Jones being out and them not really being able to move the ball like that, we'll keep an eye on that Aaron Jones injury because he had a hip injury. We saw they were padding and icing it up. He was stretching. He was trying to do high knees on the sidelines. Couldn't really get it done. Wasn't really moving the way he, as fluid as he needed to. So that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on after their bye week. But they started off pretty much with 2 quick 3-and-outs. Couldn't really get any continuity on offense. Then they secured a big first down, which kind of gave you some false hope that maybe they were going to do something with it. And then the drive stalled, which led to 3 straight 3-and-outs. Sauce Gardner, at that point was being evaluated for concussion. Didn't really know if he was going to come back. Michael Carter Jr. got injured. So, the Jets were kind of like on the ropes. Didn't really know if they were going to have guys playing. Didn't know if guys were going to even be, if they were even going to be blown out in this game. It was all on the table at that point. However, what really scared the shit out of the Jets, Aaron Rodgers getting that knee bent back, as I previously just touched on. He stepped out of the game for a bit. You saw Tyrod Taylor warming up. However, once the moment I felt like where the Jets kind of stepped back into the game and where it seemed like the Jets were definitely, the momentum had swung fully to them, that roughing the punter penalty. Now, I know, in full honesty, a lot of Vikings fans, any Vikings fans watching this or watching the game will say, if you think that's roughing the punter, that's a bullshit call. I agree, in my personal opinion. I agree in context of, could have been a 5-yard penalty, probably should have been a 15-yard variety. However, I'm glad that they have the referees explaining this shit during the game because I'm trying to remember the referee that was commentating. I don't know if it was McCulley that was commentating, but I forget who it was that was commentating during the game with Kurt Warner and Rich Eisen. But however, he stated that running into the kicker, and it could have been a 5-yard variety because it wasn't a vicious running into the kicker penalty. However, being that he did it and it was visible, the call could have went either way. So that iffy-ass call, that being up in the air, that led to the Jets getting momentum. Rodgers comes back in the game. They get into the red zone, drive stall, another incompletion to Alan Lazard. Again, too many damn touches for Alan Lazard. Not understanding why he's touching the ball this much. I get familiarity. I get it. I get that this guy played with him in Green Bay. I get that Nathaniel Hacker's the offensive coordinator. He fucking sucks. He can't catch the fucking ball. I mean, this guy couldn't catch a fucking cold. That's how bad his hands have been the past year and a half. Going a step further. Now it's 17-10 game. Okay. Vikings stall again. Jets defense is keeping the offense. Jets defense is keeping the Jets offense alive and in the game. Vikings kick a field goal. Is now 20-10 game. 2-score game again. This is where I thought was very interesting. At that point, and I believe the stat, if I remember correctly, the Vikings had 93 yards of offense at that point in the second half, which is just downright fucking horrible. Which just lets you know that at that point, I think, and I could be wrong, because of how things played out towards the end, I could be definitely wrong, but maybe that slipper for Cinderella might be starting to slip off. Sam Darnold looked the most average he's looked all season in that second half. And then to add insult to injury, he throws an interception, which gives the Jets even more life. Pass in a double coverage, horrible fucking throw, shouldn't have been made. He makes it, trying to trust Jordan Addison to play, overthrew him, interception. That happens. Now the Jets, get downfield, get in the red zone, they score. Rodgers to Garrett Wilson. Now it's a one-score game. It's 20-17. So it's just, it's something I'm thinking about. It's not going to get really seen right now because, again, ultimately the Vikings won the game. And Darnold made the throws down, late in that game to win the game. But I think that's something to keep an eye on because the Jets showed something in this game where they limited those exciting deep throws that he likes to make. Because one thing we got to remember about Sam Darnold, the one thing that we know about the tape on him, though this is like version 4.0 of him, now playing in Minnesota and he's playing with a better crop of talent and, better coaching staff. He had Kyle Shanahan a year ago. He's got Kevin O'Connell this year. Needless to say, though, he has a little wild streak in him. He has a little, I need to put this ball, where my guy can't get it, but make an exciting play type of moves. And little Carson Wentz-ish. And I think it's going to wind up costing them at some point. However, the Jets defense, got to give them credit too. They bent, but they didn't break. Darnold leads that drive. Defense stops them. They get a field goal. It's 23-17. And then to finish the game, the Jets are driving downfield. And lo and behold, another deep back shoulder pass to Allen Lazard. I'm not a Jets fan, but it was infuriating as a football fan watching them trying to shove the ball to Allen Lazard as if he's an elite receiver. I need this to be understood, and I need this to be heard very clearly and contritely. Allen Lazard is ass. They should have gotten off of Allen Lazard this past offseason. I know the bullshit. I know. Well, Aaron was injured. Now that Aaron's healthy. Well, Aaron's been back for 5 games, and he hasn't looked like shit. Yeah, he scored today, but he had a lot of drops. His hands are just like bricks. It's like if you just took off his thumbs and just gave him bricks for hands and watch him trying to catch deep balls. It looks horrible. Back shoulder throw, I wouldn't trust him on a slant. I don't understand what Aaron's doing. With that being said, Davante Adams, don't worry, Jets fans. Unless your front office fucks this up, Davante Adams is in your future because there is no way offensively you can continue that style of play and think you're going to threaten for the AFC East or threaten any team in the damn playoffs. I can promise you that. Davante Adams would have definitely have caught that damn pass today. Definitely wouldn't have put the ball on the damn turf as many times as Lazard did. Aaron Rodgers has to play better. The offensive lines looked like they were starting to get in sync, and they got to trust the running game a little bit more. I've said this about Philadelphia. I've said this about a couple teams this year. It seems to be a habit where teams, they get down by 2 scores early, and it's like abandon the run. Why the fuck are you abandoning the running game when the game's nowhere near over? You're not even in the second half. Make some fucking adjustments on defense and can stay consistent and force them to have to respect that running game. Breece Hall was getting touches. There was at one point, I do believe I heard that correctly, it was leading into the end of the game. They had went 19 snaps before they had ran the ball. You mean you're just not keeping that defense honest? They're sitting back waiting. And that interception that Aaron Rodgers threw, he baited Rodgers. Anybody knew Allen Lazard wasn't really expecting to get the ball. That's the whole reason why he wasn't even paying attention when the interception was thrown. 2-3 for the Jets. A lot of craziness is going to be going on in New York. A lot of questions going to be asked, and Davante Adams is definitely going to be. They're going to be on Davante Adams' fucking watch in New York this week. I can promise you that. Again, shout out to the Vikings, 5-0. Wasn't expected for them to be 5-0 at this point. Like how the defense is playing, like how the team is playing overall, just getting it done. This will be something to keep an eye on, though, because I do believe the offense, as Sam Darnold showed signs of weakness today, that's going to be something that superior teams might be able to pick up on and limit the Vikings. But again, shout out to the Vikings, 5-0, definitely doing it. And that's going to wrap it up for this edition's instant reaction of Jets versus Vikings. I have a video recapping the rest of this week. Pretty much right now, the Ravens and Bengals are playing. I know the Commanders and Browns are playing. A couple other games, I have that. I also have some insight from the later games, Packers, Rams, Steelers, Cowboys. So you already know, even though the Burger Gang is off this week, still football, still the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast, still delivering the hard-hitting facts and takes that, this show is known for. And as always, guys, I thank you as always. Take care and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. See you later on this afternoon.